sector as a whole now. Let's just, granted, yes, you're feeding students, yes, there are conditional transfers, there are these social programs, but if there's nothing, very little or nothing being done to enhance facilities, for example, or the capacity of teachers to teach, then of what effect is feeding the students if they're not being taught well?
You can't say that because, of course, you've forgotten the fact that we have also, we have the Empower program where we have hired 200,000, otherwise unemployed Nigerian graduates, and a lot of them, I think about, more than 100,000 of them, I can check the figures, are working in the schools to help the teaching capacity of the schools. That's a very big help that we have brought to the question of providing capacity, teaching capacity in the schools.
It speaks to quantity, but when we talk about quality now, you're bringing in young people, some of whom may not even have experience in that field.
These are graduates, these are graduates, so don't talk about the fact that they don't have the quality. These are people who have gone to school, who are well ready.
Mr. Akande, I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not in any way suggesting that our young graduates are not capable of doing the job. What I am saying, though, is that the issue of whether they are having the precise training they need in order to do that particular work, so that's what I'm questioning.
And I'd like to give you an answer now. So talking about those, the 200,000 otherwise unemployed graduates that are now working under Empower, many of them working in the schools, we just didn't send them out. They are trained, they are equipped. Every one of them has a tablet, that has a lot of information in terms of how to, how they can be equipped for what they are doing and how they can even be equipped to improve themselves. So we are very deliberate about these things. Now, the truth of the matter is that it's going to take a while for these things to germinate, but clearly, in terms of direction, in terms of where we're going, we're in the right direction.
It is interesting that the Minister of Education, when he did start his own presentation, he talked about innovative countries of the world. And sadly, Nigeria was not amongst those countries where innovation is growing. We're still at the level where we're trying to get children to come to school. And then, we still worry about the quality of the teachers who are even taking care of basic education. We are not even worried. We've not even started focusing on what is happening in the tertiary institutions where we should be focusing on, ensuring that we start an industrial revolution, for instance, here in Nigeria. We're making the things that we need to produce. That doesn't even seem to be on the burner right now, does it?
Well, Mark, if you look again at what we're talking about, some of the things that we're doing, we do have a very major emphasis on technology and innovation. If you remember very well, we started the Aso Villa Demo Day, which was essentially an opportunity for young Nigerians that have ideas in technology and innovation to come together. We went to several parts of the country. We had pitching events in Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, where you have thousands of Nigerians come up with all kinds of ideas. I think about 5,000 Nigerians came up with ideas, of what can be done. And eventually, I think we brought about 12 of them, about 30 of them to Aso Rock to meet with the president and also the Facebook founder, Mark Zuckerberg, let me make the point, to interact with them. And we got the World Bank. To spend quite a substantial amount of money running into, well over 500 million to help them, the final 12, I believe, with what they are doing. So we're very keen on that area, and we're building technology hubs in all these 6 geopolitical zones in the country, including Lagos and Abuja. So we're very clear about.
We're building technology hubs which will come to light when.
Well, these things has to take time because it has to go to procurement.
Well, I think we should have a time frame.
We're coming close.
When will they come?
Well, about now, the procurement process is going on, and I believe that before the end of the year, we should have some of those hubs in place.
Okay, now, I was just wondering, we've also heard we saw how the NEC meeting was structured. There was a part where, they just spoke generally, the part where the media could be participants, and then there was a part where the media had to be absent, we understand, for frank conversation. And thankfully, the governors whom you say were also, have a constitutional responsibility in this regard, were part of that conversation. And, we believe that everybody bared their hat to each other. The question is, what is the way forward? Because right now we're looking at a growing population, and everybody can see that if we continue at this rate, if we do not increase spending, investing in the human population, what we're looking at in the nearest future is a disaster.
Well, you know, and I'm sure that we will avert disaster, you know, very clearly. I'm sure that Nigerians understand that this particular administration, this Buhari administration, is one that is not only moving in the right direction and has the right vision, it's also a government that is very prudent in the management of resources. Now, and I've said it, in terms of where we need to increase government spending, we are doing that, you know, but we are convinced that the wealth of Nigeria is actually more with the Nigerian people, is in the private sector. And that is why it's such a big deal to us what we are doing in the ease of doing business, which the World Bank, by the way, have recognized. You know, not only have we stepped up, you know, about 24 places in the ranking, the World Bank said that we are among the top 10 reforming economies in the world for last year. That is very important. It's an endorsement of what we are doing.
Mr. Laolu, I understand that. My point is, so what did we agree? What are we looking at to avert that disaster?
Well, you know, in terms of that...
especially in terms of health and education.
In terms of the human development special session that we had on NEC, you know, we have formed a core working group, you know, that includes the federal government, the state government, and development partners, just so we all work together as partners to take these matters forward.
Mr. Akande, I want to go back a bit to the issue of innovation, because we know we're, of course, everybody's looking at how will we build a sustainable economy into the future. Now, going back to that, if you look at the education budget, 600 in the 2018 budget proposal, 605 billion, I believe it's approximately 435 billion for recurrent, 100 billion for UBEC, and only 61 out of 605, 61 for capital. If you put that across, for example, our federal university, federal universities, where this innovation many times is supposed to spring from, how does that result in the kind of development you're talking about?
That does not include TED Fund. I'm sure you know about TED Fund.
I'm aware of TED Fund,
also
yes.
Heavily funded in terms of providing physical infrastructures in the universities. Very active and well funded. Now, again, the point is that we are very clear about the fact that we need to increase spending, you know, and we are also working on a number of innovative ideas. For instance, in the universities this year, we are having a program where we are taking solar energy to a number of universities, where we are, you know, trying to power the universities, bringing power solutions to a number of universities and funding that program even outside of the education budget.
I need to bring up something. You know, you mentioned the TED Fund, but we know that when we talk about cash backing and the releases from the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Finance has tended by strategy to release to works and housing, these construction sectors where they will employ people, but sectors like education have not seen the money that you're talking about. What do you have to say about that?
They will be seeing it very soon. It's going to get better. You have to understand the constraints of in terms of resources. You know, look, this government, for the first time in several years, as a matter of fact, I believe since probably a decade, we are spending more on capital. You know, when Nigeria had a lot of resources, when oil was selling for over $100 and over $110, you know, they were spending less than 10%, that's 5% on capital. But we are earning less, and right now we are spending 30% on capital. Very clearly, you know, the difference is there. And in terms of the direction of where we are going in the right direction. We are spending more generally on capital spending, and we will do well in some of those areas. We will do better in some of those areas that you've highlighted. I can assure you of that.
Well, I'll quote Mr. Akande. He says that before the end of this year, we should begin to see technological hubs. Is that what you said?
By the grace of God.
Okay, so I have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. It's a fine place to live it. Mr. Laolu Akande is the Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity to the President in the Office of the Vice President. Sunrise Daily will continue in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at some comments coming through from those who are watching. We've got Seke, who says, perhaps in light of what has been said by retired Colonel Stan Labo, he's asking, does it mean the leadership of the military isn't aware of the happenings of security of their personnel? Remember, Colonel had said that it could be some sort of either inaction, but the military hierarchy cannot be in cahoots with them on that particular matter. And you guys got anyone?
I know Aide says, with status, that is in response to Adanjumo's statement, says, with status, he will have access to some information. The problem is not what he said, but in the interpretations Nigerians will give to it.
And also, is it Michael or Michelle has also tweeted saying that our problems are deeper than we are admitting they are.
Well, Ebube is asking questions about Section 33, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which gives people right to defend themselves. He's asking, well, if they can't protect themselves, I don't know, but we have lots of comments coming through. We appreciate you all for those comments. We hope you keep them coming through. That's the show today. We'll be back with another edition tomorrow, perhaps more interesting, you never can tell. Thank you for watching. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
I am Gimba Umar.
And I'm Neota Igbe.
Well, we sincerely hope more interesting, definitely. Ogun Yusuf.
Wishing you a great week, everybody. I'm Juri Ngilale.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.